Welcome, welcome, welcome. As you're joining in, just make sure that you're on mute. We're looking forward to have a fabulous panel today. We have a great topic that we're going to be discussing. So appreciate you guys joining us. The goal is here to have some good takeaways that you can implement in your very own business. So we're going to start things off in the next 30 seconds or so while folks get situated, get in their seats, get your popcorn out and get ready, get your notepad and get ready to take some notes and learn from our exceptional panel this afternoon. So I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us today for our Eminae CEO Forum educational series. We do these events on a quarterly basis to educate CEOs on various aspects of growing their business, scaling their business, exiting their company, and we do talks on various topics. So as you join us, make sure that you unmute. This will be recorded, and we're going to share the recording with all of the participants this afternoon. We have a great expert panel on HR that will be joining us today. So just welcome each one of you. Welcome, Chris, Mark. So I see a lot of folks here joining in the waiting room. So let's kick things off, right? So my name is Kyle Griffith. I'm the CEO and founder of Eminae, and we hold various types of events. Our philosophy here at Eminae Network is to collaborate, educate, and celebrate. We hold various roundtables for our advisors to collaborate on different topics that relates to mergers and acquisitions. We have a team of trusted advisors provide various types of expertise on various aspects of running a company, from insurance to HR to IT, legal aspects, and so on. For today's seminar, we focus in more on the educational aspect of our philosophy. We also want to give back and provide content that you can use in your own business and implement. The goal today, if you can take away 1 or 2 nuggets that you can implement in your business, that'll be a success. You always want to take some notes, and if you resonate with any one of the speakers, don't hesitate to reach out to them. As far as our topic today, we're talking about hiring, retention, and firing, and how the Great Resignation and our new reality can affect your deal. If you are a business owner, I'm sure you can relate to what's been happening lately as far as the employee shortage, and it's just been a challenge just finding good people and retaining staff. I can't tell you how many clients I speak with that either can't find employees, you can't find management, you can't find skilled business owners, skilled employees and technical staff, to help run their companies. It's just been a challenge, and it has been all over the news as far as the opportunities for folks to leave where they're at and move to better pastures, where companies offer more flexible work from home solutions, and so on and so on. So we wanted to dive into that. So we have today we have ADP, Benefits Evaluation Group, Certilman Balin, and SevenStar. Those are the companies today that are sponsors for this event. They all are key advisors here with the Eminae Network. So we're looking forward to having a fabulous event today. So we're going to kick things off, and I'm going to hand the hosting obligations over to one of our advisory board members, Rowe Pellicano. He's a strategic advisor and CIO. Is nothing about business he doesn't know. He's very well-rounded. If you're looking to strategize and grow your company, not only from an IT perspective, but from a strategy perspective, and implementing software and technologies to grow your company, Roy is definitely somebody you want to connect with. He has been an integral part of our team here, implementing a lot of the aspects to M&A and running a lot of our events here. So Roy, before I hand it over to you, Roy, I would advise Roy, if you could keep on mute. This session has been recorded. We're going to go through our session today. And for those of you that stick around to the end, you're going to want to stick around because you're going to have some open networking right after you get to the content. We have a Q&A session. And after the Q&A, you're going to have some open networking so we can connect with everyone here in attendance. With that being said, let's kick things off. Roy, are you with us?
I am. Thank you. Thank you so much for that intro. And let me tell you, it's really easy to do all the things you've said, Kyle, because it's something that I love. And when you love educating people and when you love working with people and learning from them, it's a tremendous opportunity and it's very easy to do. And the M&A Network has been such an educational experience for me. So it's wonderful to hear that I've been helping able to educate others as well. As you indicated, I don't know if you want to advance the slide deck, but the M&A Network is about bringing people together to advise business owners who are going through the M&A process. And that M&A process doesn't happen when you're ready to sell or when you're ready to buy. That M&A process actually should happen much earlier in the establishment of your business. And that's something that we try to educate people on and really get people to understand. And because we have 40 different professionals in the network touching on just about every aspect of a deal, as well as what it takes to operate a business, we're in a very special place to be able to assist lower to middle market companies as their advisory team. And it's something that I think everybody in our organization, and I talk to the members all the time, are very interested in doing. It's not just an intellectual pursuit for everyone here. It's not just a fiscal pursuit. It's a pursuit of passion. Everybody here is passionate about what they do. They're passionate about educating, and they're passionate about learning. So with that said, I would just like to start to transition it over to the panelists. If you could slip to the next page. I'm just going to introduce our moderator, Jim Klimchak. He is focused on driving down medical costs and healthcare benefits, streamlining that administration, right? He's focused on ensuring ACA compliance. But I mean, when you talk about the complexities of a business and complexities of medical costs and healthcare benefits, John has an amazing handle on it, as well as how to manage it for a company and for his clients. He also just happens to be a certified financial planner as well as an MBA, which just indicates to me that he brings even more to the table than just his single dimension of expertise. So if you have need for someone who has the way of looking at something from multiple different dimensions, John is definitely somebody that I would turn to. His bio states that he's modest, which is why I'm saying such great things about him, but I think he's more than modest. He's actually humble. And that's one of the reasons why you need to listen to him. So without further ado, John Klimchak.
Well, Roy, thank you very much. And Kyle, thank you very much. And I'm very excited and looking forward to having our conversation this morning on this fireside chat. So what we're going to do, I want to give a little introduction to, again, our key panelists here. We have Patrick, Jackie, and Doug. But even before we go there, Roy, didn't you write a book, Sky High Profits and Explosive Growth for Your Bottom Line?
I did. It's right here, Sky High Profit Rocket and Explosive Growth for Your Bottom Line.
So before we get into our main topic, could you just share with us a little bit about that book that you have there?
Sure. It's not so much a theoretical book like normal business books that you would go to, which you'll see in my library up here. There's plenty of them. It's more of a working tool set on how to define your business. There are actual models and tables in there to follow, as well as instructions on how to fill out that information. We have case studies. It's basically any entrepreneur's basic steps into growing their business. And it's not just basic for someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, because we all need to go back to our fundamentals, particularly as we're coming up to the beginning of the year.
Right, agreed. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, because again, the part of the keys of a successful business is planning for the business, messaging your product, and also engaging in your customer base. And in order to do all of that, what we need to do is have to make sure that we have the right people on the ship with us. So that brings us again to our human resources. And with that being said, what I'm going to do is I want to introduce Doug Rowe first, who's a partner at Certilman Balin. He's a partner in the labor and employment law practice. His broad range of expertise includes claims alleging discrimination based upon race, sex, religion, national origin, age, and disability, as well as sexual harassment, wage and hour issues, labor arbitrations, and defense of employment-related claims under federal and state statutes. He's frequently quoted in the media about legislation affecting employers and employees by initiating, and this is the key, by initiating preventative counseling on company policies and other personnel matters. Mr. Rowe helps his clients keep the cost of litigation down or avoid litigation costs altogether. He was named the New York Metro Super Lawyers List in 2011 and has earned the distinction consecutively from 2013 to 2021. So Doug, please welcome. Thank you very much. Tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a little bit about your firm.
Sure, John. You know, you almost said it all.
Almost.
Certilman Balin is the second largest law firm on Long Island. It's essentially a business law firm. We handle most business-related matters, everything except for intellectual property and matrimonial. Otherwise, it's a full-service business law firm. Again, as you said, I concentrate my practice on labor and employment law, representing employers. Thanks, John.
Excellent. And then we have Jacquelyn Gernaey, who's the CEO of SevenStar HR. Jackie offers targeted support for one of the toughest challenges businesses face, hiring and managing employees. Jackie uses SevenStar HR's HR consultants and proprietary effective hiring tool to deliver superior value to the companies that she works with. She helps organizational leaders identify and solve complex related HR risk issues, build solid processes to optimize business operations and construct a culture that allows business owners to enjoy going to work. Jackie, can you please share with us a little bit more?
So what I find is no one has problems until they have employees. And so therefore, and most business owners really are not wanting to focus on dealing with HR issues. So that helps both Doug and I in that means that people get into issues and have to get out of them. We're he's the legal mind, we're the boots on the ground, working with the employees, those kind of things to help them. We have something that you all might be interested in, which is something called an HR MRI, which allows you to know exactly what's going on with your business and what risk there is so that you can then make sure you protect yourself. So if you use Kyle Griffith's name, you can get that at no charge. So there you go.
I love it. Hey, thank you very much, Jackie. All right, so we have Doug so far is going to cover legal aspects. Jackie's going to cover general HR processes and procedures. And now we have Patrick from ADP, Automated Data Processing. Patrick himself, what he does, he is a partnerships district manager with ADP, where he's aligned with CPA, broker, and other COI partner relationships throughout the greater New York metro area. Patrick's primary responsibility is working with those advisors and their clients to identify best fit technology and service model solutions to support all things people within their organization, from payroll to PEO, or from benefit administration to talent strategy. Patrick has his clients and their advisors covered. Patrick, can you share with us a little bit more on your role and the technology and the tools available that ADP has and what you do?
Sure thing. Sure thing, John. Excited to be here. First of all, just what I said, you kind of covered it there. We offer a lot of product and service solutions here at ADP, and it's my job and responsibility to help steer that ship to the right solution for the business, especially those going through a merger acquisition or larger planning to make sure business and ownership group is in the best possible position for the stage of that company. Said it right in the name of ADP, automatic data processing. We have a lot of data that we use to help guide those decisions for business owners. So we'll be touching on some of those findings throughout today's presentation. Looking forward to it.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so now, interestingly enough, I'm just going to touch on something before we get into our first poll question. But Roy was kind enough to share with us an article that was out of Entrepreneur Magazine. The Great Resignation is quickly becoming the Great Revolt. And essentially what I want to share with you is that the Great Resignation may seem like a passing phenomenon. It's more complex and potentially more serious than you think. October has seen a launch of worker strikes across a range of industry, becoming the current labor shortage that tipped the balance of power to employees. Interestingly enough, it's what we're seeing out there is low wage workers are revolting. I saw a Starbucks over the weekend that is joined a union, I think up in Buffalo. I mean, we have a lot of issues going on right now. We have people working at home. The quit rate in the hotel restaurant industry is 6.8%, over double the average rate across all industries. Even white collar workers who are able to work from home are resigning. Absolutely unbelievable. So with that being said, the first question that we have on our poll is, are your clients having trouble obtaining the best applicants? So with that, we're going to ask you to answer the questions and let us, we'll give a couple of minutes to answer, and then we'll see what the poll results provide. And then we're going to have Patrick provide some statistics in the hiring process, in hiring statistics. Wow. All right. So far, 19 of 31 have answered, and 100% are having problems or trouble obtaining the best applicants. Okay, Patrick, do you have some statistics on hiring practices, on hiring statistics?
Sure. I think we're going to take this question a little bit differently, to talk through a story, basically illustrative of what we're talking about in the labor market. And started off by saying ADP Research Institute regularly releases data and context around some of the trends that we're seeing. And one in particular that I thought was very interesting is the bus driver shortage. It's really illustrative of what we're talking about. So specifically talking about bus drivers in general, school buses and others. The number of those positions is down 13% from September 2019 to 2021. If you can remember, early pandemic, schools shut down. Most, if not all, school bus drivers were furloughed, let go, whatever the case may be. A couple of other stats: the typical wage for a bus driver is $23 an hour versus a national average of $31 an hour. And since that same time period, the 2019 to 2021, the percentage of the drivers that were aged 25 to 35 is actually down 30%. Bring that up because another statistic released from SHRM actually is 87% of millennials rate professional or career growth opportunities as a top factor when job hunting. And as part of the trend that's going on, about 28% of overall population have taken a new role during the pandemic, and that is actually short of the 36% of Gen Z that have taken on a new role. Basically comes around to younger people in particular, but the larger population have used pandemic to reassess, their career skills, job stability, but also they're looking for jobs with room for that growth. And whether it was the kick in the pants based on the timing of everything to actually take advantage of that, it bears out in the statistics of this bus driver example that plenty came back, but those that were able to reskill, find additional jobs, and something that might be more engaging for them have left, and they have not come back. And a couple of those factors, we'll try to address more specifically, but I think it speaks to the overall trend of career growth, education, and learning are all top factors in contributing factors to what we see as the Great Resignation. But it really is, what does career growth, what does career pathing look like for individuals, kind of across industry?
I agree with you. I think you're absolutely right. Jackie, can you share with us some ways some of our participants and their clients are able to get additional candidates?
So yes, thanks, John. Given Patrick's gloom and some doom here on us, we have to take some really creative ways in order to get candidates. And we're going to be talking about some of the standard ones, and then a little later on we'll be talking about that. But you have to remember the word ad, A-D, is a marketing term. And what that means is you need to create an ad that sells your company, that sells the job. So you need to do some prep work. An ad is not a job description, not at all. It's what are the great things about working for this company. You need to set a salary range, as Patrick talked about. Salary range is going to be hard for them to get bus drivers at $23 an hour if 31 is what the average is. So you need to do some research and set a salary range. Now, something that has happened recently, and I don't know if any of you've seen it yet, but if not, you place an ad, you will. If you do not put a salary range in the ad, Indeed will do it for you. They put it right in there, whether it's the one you want or the one or one you don't want. So my advice is make sure that you put it right in the first part. What is the good things about it? We offer this salary. No more can you say commensurate with experience or any of those kind of things. It's also good to use some databases. Now, some of you may not know, and one of the things we use, so I'll give you a little trick that we use, is we will buy an Indeed database, not very expensive, $100 to $300. You can stop at any time so that you can actually do a search on Indeed for for who's looking. You can see in that when they updated their profile. You also should take a look at your LinkedIn and Glassdoor, not LinkedIn, Indeed and Glassdoor reviews. Make sure they're good. If they're not good, if people are coming and putting bad reviews there, nobody is going to want to work for your company. And you need to make sure you have a LinkedIn profile that is representative of the company. You want to have your own company LinkedIn profile, and your employees need to have good LinkedIn profiles if they're going to be involved with this particular person. It's all a marketing job to do that. Then what you need to do, once you get prepared, those are all prep things, you need to start down two paths. Those that are actively looking, use an applicant tracking system that will post to many sites. That's really good. Don't just use Indeed. They are a huge, they're 100-pound gorilla. But you want to, it costs something like, if you want to sponsor an Indeed, $600 to $750. It's only going to stay in the first page for a day or two. So you want to use some other things like programmatic recruiting that will move money around to different sites, and LinkedIn searches. And then, as I said, the databases. So those are some things that you can do right away on your own to help hire. Get the candidates in so you can potentially hire them.
I appreciate that. Programmatic recruiting.
Okay, so programmatic recruiting, you would think you don't know what it is, but you really do. Anybody buys shoes, and look for shoes on Indeed, right? And what happens? You see shoes everywhere. Anywhere else you go, I'm not Indeed, on like an Amazon search or just any kind of search. Programmatic will, if someone looks for what is the salary of a XYZ job, programmatic will put your ad up there. So it will chase people just like rebranding marketing does.
Interesting. So would that kind of fall under AI bias?
No, because AI bias, we're going to move to on that to Doug, but yeah. AI bias has to do with bias from using bots to interview.
Right, but it's still AI automated.
It is AI, but it's only to get the candidates in the door.
Right.
Then you do regular searches.
Right, but to that, I agree with you.
Interviews.
So, but now to that point, what we have to be aware of is if we're using some AI, I'm going to use the term AI recruiting tools. I'm not an HR person. You know, there are different, you know, you have to be aware of different discriminations. And I think New York City is in the process or is thinking about passing some type of audit bills. Doug, could you speak to that a little bit for us?
Sure. I'll get to that, you know, in a minute. But, you know, when we talk about the Great Resignation, we have to recognize that it's also a time of the great rehire. So, because, you know, again, companies are dealing with, you know, with employees resigning and and strategies on how to retain talent. But, you know, when they can't retain talent, that talent is going elsewhere. And there are other companies out there that are hiring. So this is the time of the great rehire. And, you know, just as a reminder, and the real significant legal issue regarding hiring is all the minefields that exist in the hiring process. A lot of them fall under the discrimination laws. You touched upon AI. AI is where employers use automated employment decision-making tools to hire employees. You touched upon New York City, the new New York City law that it will go into effect as of January 2nd, 2023. But essentially, that is going to outlaw the use of AI in these automated employment decisions unless the employer has a bias audit that's performed within a year prior to the use of AI in the hiring process. And by the way, you know, aside from New York City being on this, and they are one of the first, this is one of the first laws in the country. I think there's a similar law that was passed in Indiana. The U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission is all over this issue. They are currently analyzing the issues. They will be soon coming out with new guidelines as far as the use of AI in the hiring decisions. So that's going to be the next big issue in hiring. And again, the intention is to avoid discrimination in the hiring process, and that's why the need for these bias audits. You know, with that said, as a reminder, the discrimination laws prohibit discrimination in hiring based upon race, sex, national origin, religion, pregnancy, etc. So, you know, Jackie touched upon ads before. So we've had cases from the litigation standpoint where there are literally claimants sitting online looking for violations of the law in ads. So for example, we had a client a few years ago that advertised for hiring employees with a clean criminal background. All right, that's a violation of the discrimination laws. We had a client who advertised for a hostess in a busy midtown restaurant. That's a violation of the discrimination laws because, you know, that implies that a woman would have to fill that role. That cost the company money. There was a case where we had a claimant who lived in Buffalo who saw an ad from an employer on the east end of Long Island looking for high school girls to hand out flyers after school at a minimum wage. The claim that this person in Buffalo actually filed a discrimination claim saying that that ad prohibited him from applying for the job. That's how crazy what we're dealing with now. So again, you know, from a hiring standpoint, be careful of your ads. Be careful of, for example, if you have a company with predominantly Hispanic employees and you want to hire, if you're going to hire through your existing staff, through a word of mouth scenario, you know, invariably, you're probably going to end up potentially hiring more Hispanic employees. That recruitment practice could be a violation of the discrimination laws.
Doug, I've even seen the words, we were looking for an energetic person. That might mean that they don't want anyone old.
Right.
So you have to be very, very careful.
Exactly. I touched upon criminal background checks before. You know, now the law essentially is if you want to rely on a criminal conviction history, you first have to make the offer of employment, which will then be contingent upon a satisfactory criminal background check. And if it turns out that there was a criminal conviction history, then you have to analyze the conviction history against the needs for the position, the age of the person when the conviction occurred, how many years it's been since the conviction. There are numerous factors under the federal and state laws when it deals with the ability of an employer to refuse to hire an employee based upon a criminal conviction history. The latest set of laws that are expanding nationally, but definitely exist in New York right now, is the salary history ban. So employers are no longer permitted to ask their employees what their salary history has been because that the rationale behind salary history bans is that it promoted pay disparity between the sexes, essentially. So this was intended to prevent that from occurring. You know, at this point, since it's the time of the great rehire, make sure all your documents are correct. Your employment applications should not be asking any questions about disabilities. They should not be asking questions about, you know, years of the year you graduated high school, or even college, because you can determine the age of an applicant. The employee handbooks should be updated. Onboarding forms, as always, have to be complied with, you know, from the basics such as W-4s and I-9s to the state-specific forms such as the wage notice requirement that exists in New York. And again, that's a state-specific, that's state-specific requirements as well. Again, when it comes to hiring new applicants, it's just important to recognize that the applicant, the analysis should be whether the applicant is suitable for the position, irrespective of age, sex, national origin, religion, etc. That's really the goal in order to avoid any discrimination claims in hiring.
Interesting. All right. I just want to touch, if it's okay, 2 minutes on the benefit perspective. What employers need or maybe don't need to do, because the fact of the matter is, it's been our take or our opinion that when it comes to benefits are very industry specific. The more white collar the industry, the more benefits are going to be important or key to hiring or recruiting the right talent in your organization. The more blue collar or more easily somebody could be replaced, maybe the benefits are not as important. Even to that point, when the Affordable Care Act came into being, primarily it was passed in 2010, but most of the effects came in 2014. Smaller groups that have less than 50 full-time employees technically don't have to provide benefits. With the advent of the individual exchanges, benefits could be provided to the exchanges based upon a person's income. If they're going through the exchange, the federal government may be providing a subsidy to these particular individuals. So again, in some respects, depending on the size of the group and the industry and the wages that the employee is making, you might be doing a disservice by providing benefits rather than a service, especially if they're lower income employees where they're eligible to receive some type of premium subsidy from the government by enrolling in individual coverage. But even upon that, what's very important is, and we just had a conversation with one of our clients a couple of weeks ago. He's an alarm company, and he's renewing his health insurance plan. And basically the question comes up, okay, Johnny, I'm having a problem attracting and retaining employees. Where do I need to do? Where do I need to be at? And that's where essentially, maybe it's time, let's take a look at a benchmark analysis. Who's our competition? What are they providing? And maybe we need to, sweeten the pot a little bit to see what they're offering to try to attract and retain the employees to our side of the fence. So those are the different things that we have to take a look at. We have to take a look at the industry. We have to take a look at the competition. We have to take a look, are we losing employees to perhaps a union? We have other groups that are non-union shops, but they're competing in union space, especially the trade associations. So we have to make sure that, listen, our package that we're offering on a complete basis is going to be just as competitive as the union benefits that are being provided if someone were to go to a local 3 or something like that, which is key. And the one final point I do have to say to this is that basically, while we have these different avenues that we have to go down, every company is still individually different, and there might be little nuances to that particular company than to the industry specific. Smaller companies are typically more fluid, and that might be an asset or an advantage to bringing on some other employees that are looking for fluidity. So that's where we are on that. But I want to go down. We have another poll question coming up. What tools do you use to help screen candidates? So let's answer these questions. What tools do you use to help screen candidates? Intelligence assessments, hard skill tests, behavior and communication testing, artificial intelligence interviews, kind of touched on that earlier, background checks, applicant tracking systems. What do you use when you're trying to attract and screen your applicants? All right, so it looks like we have roughly half our attendees have participated. And right now we're looking, looks like we have roughly 30% use some type of intelligence assessments, 71% hard skill tests. Wow. Behavior and communication testing, that's huge. No artificial intelligence background checks, 50%. Applicant tracking systems, 29%. Patrick, can you share with us, do you have any statistics on here, what different employers use?
Not so much statistics on this one, but just some additional context to what Doug was talking about with regards to the criminal history assessments, salary band history when it comes to compliant job postings. It's a statistic from it's statistics regarding small to mid-sized businesses, those with 25 to 99 employees, that real sweet spot of, I'm not really sure where we fall in the compliance spectrum. And they're saying that 20% are having a challenge with compliance. Doug touched on a bunch of them, but we also now have what's the current state of vaccine mandates or mask mandates in the office. But getting back to just applicant tracking and testing of those requirements, how are they actually maintaining those records of successful background checks in industries where that's required, but also licensure for any certified positions. OSHA training requirements is one that's definitely out there. Health and safety or food service worker safety training, definitely harassment training, all built into tools that are available for small, mid-sized businesses, including down to that vaccine tracking, because again, there's a lot, and not having that expertise in-house creates that extra burden. So not only who are you hiring, who's the best people to hire, but are we doing it compliantly? Do we need to have certain trainings, done within 30 days, 60 days, within the first year of employment? How does that actually work? And just contextually, starting March of 2020, the increase in our client base that were upgrading their technology packages in order to accommodate those more robust virtual HR records was through the roof. On top of that, the outsourced service models that we have to actually provide that HR business partner type of support and guidance, again, very popular in the small and even larger mid-market space, because you don't know what you don't know to a certain extent. And we have a lot of great advisors here in the room and within Eminae Network, but using those tools to help compliantly get the job descriptions out there. And I saw hard skills testing along with background checks in order to take advantage of things like work opportunity tax credits as part of an onboarding process. Those are all kind of baked into some of the solutions that are available.
Yes, I understand. And listen, it's a dynamic world in which we live, and I understand. And to your point, I can understand. Listen, from the business perspective, it's making a lot more sense to outsource to those specialists rather than doing in-house and have the inefficiency. So I agree with that 110%. That's why you're seeing, and I think this is what you're referring to. You're seeing a lot of these smaller groups that might be, 20 in New York specifically. If you have a group that's under 100 employees, they might be focused more on a PEO model, because now the PEO might be providing some more of the guidance than they might otherwise have, especially when we have this pandemic and people might not know what resources are available, for a person taking time off to care for somebody that might have a virus, or if they have the virus themselves, and different things along those lines. But I want to go a little bit further, because we're still talking about screening tools and what tools are available. But Jackie, could you speak to behavioral interview questions?
So generally, what we recommend is you benchmark the job, not only with what are the hard skills that somebody needs, but also what kind of communication style, what are the soft skills like teamwork and goal orientation. Those would be soft skills, because what's happening is that people hire for skills and then they fire for attitude. So you want to see if you can get the right attitude, because sometimes you can teach them the hard skills. A hard skill would be like, can I use Word or whatever? Hopefully they know Word if that's a requirement. So if you can benchmark that, and we use software that asks questions as to what are the, do you need a driving person? Do you need somebody that's going to communicate? You need a rule follower? Somebody that does marketing should have a different behavioral style than someone who does accounting or law or, some of those where you need to follow the rules. And then use behavioral interview questions. So what are they? So behavioral interview question asks a question to help you underscore a particular behavior. So it might be something like, tell me a time when you experienced such and such, and what did you do about it? And you want to relate those to your job, right? So that would be a behavioral interview question. In an interview, you should talk only 20% of the time. The prospect should be talking 80% of the time. So you want to no yes or no questions, just let's see if we can pull out what is it that is going on from a behavioral standpoint.
We're looking for more open-ended questions.
More open-ended questions, specifically focused on things that are specific to your particular job.
I agree with you 100%. 100%. We got to see if the person actually has the behavioral tendencies to be successful in whatever job we're trying to fill.
That's correct.
How's he going to get along with others? How's he going to get along with us? Are we going to be butting heads? Right. I'm with you 110% on that. Doug, what percent of the decision making in the hiring assessments, relate to background check laws and the such?
Well, this is I touched on this before. I don't know about percentage. I mean, we had this informal poll about use of tools to to evaluate applicants, but these days, as I said before, it's all about minefields, and it's all about hiring and avoiding liability for discrimination in hiring. So and there are so many laws now that have to be considered in the hiring process. For example, New York I think it was last year, just passed a law that prohibits employers from essentially testing for marijuana. Now, there was a medical marijuana law that's been on the books for about 5 or 6 years. Now it's recreational marijuana that can no longer be tested for. Again, employers have to keep up with the changes in the laws in order to avoid these discrimination laws. And by the way, I mean, look, the best recommendation that I could make is either consult on a regular basis with your labor attorney, consult on a regular basis with your HR consultant, consult on a regular basis, or bring in a PEO who's going to be available to you, at any time. Again, in order to, it's all about compliance. It's all about compliance in hiring and in all employment decisions. So again, in this day and age, it's almost impossible for employers to keep up with all the laws and all the changes in the laws, which are occurring so rapidly. The changes are suddenly coming out. It's like we have a month or so now. The laws come out, we have about a month to prepare for them. This is unheard of, and it's just this is the way I see it. Again, in the hiring process, background checks are key, but background checks to be used in order to make sure that we avoid the liability as well.
Hey,
Agreed.
John,
Yeah.
we usually suggest no more than 30% for an assessment, and then make sure that if you're using an assessment, one of the best things you can do to protect yourself is make sure the assessment has done adverse impact studies. Similar to what Doug was talking about in the AI, the kind of the audit, well, they need to audit the assessment to make sure that it is not discriminating, as Doug said, against women or any nationality, race, any of those things. So it's real important to do that. And you really, I usually say you can look at a third assessments, but I think it's dangerous if it's more than that. You need to do the interview and then their skills. It should be no more than a third, and a third. So don't focus on any one thing when you're interviewing.
Right. All right. We're going to come up with another poll. You know, how do you improve retention? Because we're talking about hiring. What tools could we use to hire? What tools could we, the DISC assessments, behavioral analysis, different tools. But ultimately, at the end of the day, 57% say they quit a job because of a bad boss. Maybe the key here is, well, let's try to retain as many as we can. And then also the same study, and this was out of the Entrepreneur magazine, 50% of the employees feel their own performance would improve if their boss received the right kind of training. So maybe what we have to do is, before we look outside, maybe we have to look inside to see what we could do within our organization to make sure that, listen, we're giving value to the people that we have. We're giving them job opportunities. And also at the same time, we're training our managers the right way so that they could work effectively and efficiently, with the hires beneath them. So we have the retention poll up. How do you improve retention? What tools do you use to help screen candidates? Okay, adjust compensation levels to market levels. All right. I was at a meeting a couple of weeks ago, HVAC company. He said, listen, your key people, the best thing to do, pay them cash, give them more money to keep them. Do you use engagement surveys? Written on board? Not
literal cash.
Yeah, no, increases. That's exactly.
We don't want Doug and I to have a heart attack here.
That's right. I'd have the IRS over here in a minute. No. Increase the pay is really what they said. If they're valuable to you, make sure they know it. I mean, pay them. Let them know. That's not for everybody. Sometimes not always cash, but that was his thought process. Engagement surveys. Do you use a written onboarding process beyond the legal, tax and forms? Mentorships. Culture of recognition and praise, that's huge. Communicate company values to the employees. How many of us are really doing that? Voluntary benefits, accident, critical illness, hospital. I agree. So let's see where we have. We have roughly half the participants answered. And how did they improve? Roughly 47% said they adjust compensation to market levels. Okay. 20% say they utilize engagement surveys. Okay, fine. 20% written onboard process beyond the legal and tax forms. Mentorships, 53%. Here's the big one, 87% culture of recognition and praise. People want to feel valued, 100%. Communicate company values to employees, 47%. The benefits on the voluntary side, 20%. All right, so that's very interesting here. So moving forward, Patrick, can you share what you have on turnover statistics or anything that ADP has on with respect to the retention side?
Sure thing. I got a couple things. First of all, just on the ancillary benefits, a random one from Ronstadt, actually, is Next Normal survey, that 24% of new applicants think that flex hours were the most important additional benefit, but close second was 20% for childcare benefits.
Interesting.
Keep in mind. So I was actually, I think, reading the same study out of Entrepreneur magazine. It's actually based on a Gallup study. And just to go a little bit deeper in that, 84% of US workers say that poorly trained managers create a lot of unnecessary stress. And 57% of those that have left the position quit because of a bad boss.
Right.
You generally don't quit your company, you quit your manager. And it really speaks to that 87% that the culture of praise and recognition, sure, from the owner's perspective, you kind of instill that from top down, but it really comes down to internally, what does that recognition look like? I was actually on a call this morning with a group that I'm a part of, and I won't name the organization, but it was a large bank, basically. And this is a mid-market banker that was telling me about the current culture of their team. Overwhelmingly performing well. There's a lot of need for what she does in particular. But she mentioned that 2 years ago, they eliminated a couple positions at that management level, and they never rehired for those smaller team leadership. She's currently on a team where her boss has 19 direct reports. She said it is so impossible to get a conversation just to how are you doing, or I need help with a deal, or I have a service issue going on, that going into her boss's calendar is just looking at a triple booked from here until next spring easily. So when you think about the statistics of that, 12% of workers have quit since April, with that bucket being overwhelmingly in the bracket of mid-level 30 to 45-year-old professionals. You start kind of thinking about, they don't necessarily need hand-holding day to day, but that recognition, support of a trained manager is really important for retaining those folks, because what we know is that those employees that are engaged in their work have increased productivity. Ultimately, you're attracting better performers in that role, and those engaged folks are over 10 times more likely to stay with the company and to be engaged and to be productive for your organization.
Interesting. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. Doug, could you share with us on legal forms that need to be done and any consequences if they're not done properly?
Sure. So I touched upon, state-specific laws. There's a law in New York that requires employers to give their employees wage notices. They have to be filled out. They have to be completed. There's a $5,000 penalty for not having wage notices or not being filled out properly and completely. Reminds me of a litigation we had several years ago where our client had 600 employees, all of whom received the wage notice form. All the wage notices were filled out, but there was a typo. There's a typographical error on every wage notice. It said West 25th Street instead of West 26th Street. It was a typo. The address on the wage notice form was not the correct notice. The plaintiff's attorney in the case took the position that every wage notice was wrong as a matter of law, and that there's a $5,000 penalty for not having a correct wage notice, which was a $3 million issue in the context of this litigation we were in the midst of. There were also several other issues. So, again, it's important not only to have the forms and comply with, and by the way, this is about compliance in general with every employment law out there, because there are plaintiffs' attorneys who are sitting looking for the technical violations of these laws. They're not necessarily going to accept somebody's word that, that they have the wage notices. They want to see it. They want to see if it's completed. There's a statute that deals with what these wage notices look like and how they have to be completed. So if they're not completed properly, there's the liability. So again, it's like everything else. Compliance is key. That's why, you need an HR expert to just ensure compliance. Smart employers, again, at this time will bring in, a lawyer or a PEO or a consultant to actually do a self-audit to determine whether there's compliance, and if not, how to fix it, and how to fix it in order to avoid, the potential claims as well. I just want to also, touch upon, retention in general. retention could be, based on the poll, based on, the poll, all the elements and what employees are looking for. And obviously, monetary retention awards make a lot of sense, and basically to revamp the compensation structure, is important. But, employees in general want the feeling of being part of something good. And
100%.
This goes to, mentorship. This goes to access to leaders. And by the way, overall, it goes to executive leadership training. It goes to management training. I mean, I have to expect that the management training industry is going to explode in the next few years because of the intention, the need to retain key employees. And it's sort of the soft side that Jackie was talking about before, but it's really as important on the same level as the compensation structure. Because if you have a bad boss, you're gonna be paid what you think is fair. You're still going to be looking to leave to find a better place for the same compensation. And touching upon that, just in general, I just read an article yesterday. Employers expect the largest hike in wage increase budgets in 13 years. So we're going to see an across the board, increase in wages anyway. Every company is going to, experience that. So again, it's important to make sure that, this is a good place to work.
Agreed. And I just want to go back to Jackie for a moment, being a human resource specialist, in that it's not that people leave companies, but people leave managers.
Right. And I think you heard Patrick give some
did.
Statistics on that. So what that means, and Doug was alluding to this, is, or maybe even said it, you cannot just promote someone as a manager and assume because they've been good at their job that they're going to be good as a manager. You've got to really do training for them. And, this survey showed the written onboarding process beyond the legal. And I think part of that is that, and it wasn't very high, only 20%, is really creating a 30, 60, 90-day training program for people, engaging them in with their boss, with the rest of the employees, making them, as Doug said, feel a part of something good, because if you don't do that, if you don't stop and think, okay, this level of person, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to set up a mentor. We're going to take them to lunch. Each manager, if it's a manager, each of the other managers is going to take them to lunch and try to help them be part of the management team. Whatever it is, you've got to really think of creative ways, because it is so blasted expensive to forget the hiring and what you have to pay for legal reviews and to a hiring consultant. Forget that. It's what happens to your clients, because you may lose them because you haven't onboarded these people properly, and they don't have the right attitude, or it can be a huge cost to you to lose your major account because you didn't onboard someone properly.
Interestingly enough, yeah, I agree with you. You're absolutely right. But you also have to be creative, which is key. And to that point,
yes,
I think we have an M&A poll, because interestingly enough, I was out to dinner with somebody again a few weeks ago, and he was talking about slowing down in his business. And in his business, I asked him, well, how do you get the talent that allows you to relax a little bit? And he said to me, Johnny, I got it through acquisition. which I thought I've never thought of that before through actual acquisition. So with that being said, I'd like to invite Kyle into the conversation here, since he's an M&A expert. Could you share with us a little bit what you see on gaining talent through the M&A acquisitions?
Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is, even before the pandemic, we have had a huge influx of companies just looking to grow via acquisition. That's because of the lack of talent, and COVID has accelerated that. It just has been insane. There are multiple reasons why a company want to use acquisition strategy, and typically has been just to increase market share, increase profitability, because typically when you have two companies that are merging, there are some redundancies there, and remove those redundancies and the business can become more profitable. But now we are seeing where companies don't have key personnel that have either left. I was speaking with a company in the IT space, and they had 8 technicians leave in the space of 1 month.
Wow.
Yikes.
Insane. And they went to the competition, right? So competition, they're poaching, right? They're offering better work environments, better benefits, and so on. I was at a meeting today with another group, and they don't have drivers. They're in the transition space. They don't have drivers. They don't have the vehicles, they don't have drivers, and they have a lot of business. They just won some big contracts, and they need vehicles and need the bodies to drive these vehicles. So an acquisition strategy can definitely be one that companies should consider to acquire talent.
And I think that's so huge. Listen, at the end of the day, you have to take a look at the cost of acquisition and clients, you know, where we're looking down that road ourselves versus an acquisition. And if you're getting the right talent to help you grow, I mean, I think that's an excellent strategy. Absolutely. All right. So now with that being said, let me just take a look at the time here. It looks like 27% of our audience is using M&A to acquire talent. 73 are not. So again, just to that specific point, I think it's something that we might want to consider, depending upon, you know, the industry, depending upon the competition. Maybe we want to buy some of our competitors to see if it makes absolute sense. I'm with you on that. Okay, so with that being said, I'd like to, how much time do we have here? It looks like we have about 20 minutes to go. Is that about right?
Yeah, so we can, if you have your questions, you know,
yeah, let's take some questions. We can put them through the chat.
We'll post it in the chat. So we're going to take some questions, and then we're going to move into our breakout room. So don't hold your seats, don't run anywhere yet. We got a lot more to go here. So
hey, John and Kyle, one thing I want to talk about before we go, that's a really great way, is upskilling and moving people who have the right behaviors and whatever to a higher level position, and then hiring the lower levels, which are a little easier to fill. So that's something that's a great strategy that people should, and Kyle, that might have helped in retention with the IT company also, if they were upskilling them. So people get scared. They think they don't want to train someone because they'll just leave. And so what is the joke? So we didn't train them and they stayed. Huh. You know, is that really what you want?
Yeah, but I think you're absolutely right. But it also goes back to culture. If you want to hire, train within,
yeah, exactly.
That's the whole key. Because what kind of message are you really sending if you have a pool of talent within your organization, and you know a management position opens up, but we're going to hire that position outside? What message is that going to say within to the culture of our company?
So you need to develop your people so they can take those next levels.
Exactly right. 100%. Management training, right? Training. I'm with you. Okay. So John, now let's see.
John, I want to just touch upon a couple of legal issues in the M&A world. This will take about a minute, but you know, many acquisitions these days are talent plays, and especially in technology, we're seeing it more and more. And what is the acquiring company doing from a retention standpoint? So they are conducting stay interviews or retention interviews. They are considering stay bonuses or retention bonuses to the acquired company. So, these are sort of progressive compensation policies because, again, if the intention is to acquire talent, they have to figure out how to retain the talent simultaneously. So, and by the way, in your world, John, increased health benefits is definitely a hook to retain employees, where you can improve upon, the health benefits for the employees of the acquired company. So just some considerations when it does come to use of M&A for retention and acquisition.
That's true, because I'll tell you what, interestingly enough, we'll see two different companies in the same industry and their benefit packages are almost opposite in philosophy. Some of them are really valuing their employees, and you can see it in the benefit packages being offered, and some of them are, maybe not so much. So I agree with you 110%. I think we have a couple of hand raised for a couple of questions. Mr. Miller, Mark Miller. Oops.
Thanks, John and Roy, for recognizing my hand before also. I want to first, being the first one speaking off the panel, just to compliment everybody on the panel. It's been a very thorough and informative panel discussion. The part that I wanted to comment on, I am a professional coach, and retention and developing a culture that fosters retention seems so important to me, as it has for quite a few members of the panel. You've spoken to that. I just wanted to say that, and I am biased, I admit it, but training is great, but training is usually, if it's management training, leadership training, it has its value, but it's usually time limited with very little, if any, follow-up. I just want to put out the idea that coaching, bringing in an executive coach like me, and I also do team coaching, but people with experience in working with individuals and with teams is really essential to developing the kind of culture that will retain talent. And thinking about it as a second thought, or, salary is important, benefits are important, absolutely. But as has been said many times, people leave their jobs because of their boss more than anything else. And creating a culture which includes a value system that people can identify with, can be part of, but also training people on how to work with their people, how to treat them respectfully, how to ask questions rather than having an authoritarian model. There's so much involved in developing that kind of culture. And I wish that everybody who's participating in this discussion today, in their businesses and in their work, think about the value of bringing in coaches who have that kind of training and experience and expertise, and engaging the organization to truly create that kind of culture.
So,
question, it's a statement, but you can.
So Susan Gans, who's I think still on with us, said to me the other day that she, because I asked her to coach one of my clients' managers, and her statement to the new coachee was, "You've made it. You have a coach." So it's not, it was I love that. I just love that. So, yeah, I think same thing with mentorship. This is mentorship, coaching as needed for managers who, if you don't have time to get them trained, is really helpful.
I agree 110%. Absolutely. Anybody in professional life, we see it from sports figures, executives, and all across industries. Everybody if you want to get to the next level, you need help. And in that help process, that's where the coaching comes in. Sometimes we're our own worst enemies, right? And sometimes somebody has to tell us that, even though we might not want to hear it.
Yes, I think the phrase I used was, congratulations, you've arrived. And it sort of frames the coaching differently, that, oh, I'm not being singled out because something is necessarily wrong with me. I'm actually being singled out so that I could get support for going to the next level and upping my game.
Exactly right.
One
All
more
right.
thing before we move on, and I don't want to monopolize the conversation. I appreciate what Susan said, and coaches work with individuals who are seen as high potential to develop them. And that's exactly what Susan was talking about. I want to include working with the organization as a whole in terms of developing a culture that recognizes the value of their people. And that's not always the case. And if we're talking about,
although Mark, I was really impressed with the poll that said 91% of the people here, we may be speaking to the choir, you know, because 91% had a culture of that was very positive with their employees. So I think we need to congratulate this group, because I think you're doing better than most.
right,
So I would actually like to jump in and possibly steer the conversation a little differently, because I actually have a client on the call here with us today. I don't know if Yeen wants to pop in, but we were on a call the other day, a coaching call, and she indicated, she was like, well, we're looking to start up a retail operation. And we're worried about the fact that we're going to be dealing with entry-level retail employees. And how do we deal with the fact that these employees really are the essence of our brand, and that we're going to be relying on these entry-level employees who are not paid very well, who probably don't have a lot invested in our organization? How do we address that? And so I gave her some advice, basically saying, don't treat them as entry-level employees, because they are your brand and therefore they deserve the investment. But that's a very high-level statement. I was wondering if anybody on the panel had any particular hard, concrete advice to give Yeen. And again, Yeen, if you want to jump in and ask a specific question of the panel, please feel free.
Well, I would say, Roy, and if you want to jump in after I say this, please do. I think whoever it is, whether it's the owner or in this case, the retail owner, right, needs to understand their brand. So if they don't understand their brand, there are people on this call, Nikki's on here, she can, you know, there are people that can help you understand what your brand is. If it's a national brand that's already well understood, it's training, getting them to be able to present themselves according to the brand. What are the brand requirements?
Right. Jackie, you're absolutely right. We have a hard stop at 1:20, but I did see Alex Rubin had a quick question, so maybe we could pull her in for a minute so we could hear her question.
Oh, thank you, John. So my question is probably mostly for Jackie, but anyone else on the panel wants to chime in. At what point, I'm a small law firm, at what, an employment lawyer actually, and at what point does it make sense for someone who's small like me to bring in a recruiter to help with, you know, recruiting a legal assistant? I mean, yes, that legal assistant is my frontline person. I don't call that lower level, but in this grand scheme of things, that's not an attorney. Attorneys, on the other hand, I could see it worthwhile to bring in a recruiter to help me. I have all kinds of policies and systems in place for, you know, for vetting candidates, right? I have my own thing that a lot of recruiters don't even want to use, right? But no, I insist on it. I have a written interview. I have my own interview questions and so on, like as you.
Perfect.
But does a recruiter have more resources than I do in terms of getting the actual, the qualified candidates? Because I'm having a really tough time.
So I can't speak for all recruiters, but I can speak for us. If you're small, you need to have a system that allows you access to tools where you may be doing more of the work, like creating the ad or whatever, and maybe just getting it reviewed, or using an applicant tracking system, using hard and soft skill tests and all of that, so that you can kind of pick and choose and get a little advice without it costing you a fortune. Right?
I'll actually chime in as well, if I can, just with the statement of Alex. Thanks for the question. There's one of you. Your time is valuable.
Yeah.
And you're obviously at a point where you're expanding your business and looking for that assistance. So to Jackie's point, there are tools available, and you've done a lot of work, to vet and screen the candidates. But at a certain point, having that access to somebody that could put you in front of the right amount of candidates potentially is potentially a better use of outsourcing those efforts to somebody that can focus on it, with your guidance. The general statement.
All right.
Thank you.
The chat is open to everybody in case anybody has any specific questions. But I see here, Zariah has a question. Hi, my internet connection is like, if there is time, I would like to ask the question. We have had good experience in growing our staff to project manager levels, but taking the step to country managers has been more challenging. Any advice?
So again, it's going to be training and coming up with what is the difference, what are the differences between that one level, the project manager, and the next level up. What makes it them different? Is it different behavioral styles? Is it different soft skills, hard skills? What is it that allows them to not do as good a job? And then you need to sort of plan to counteract that, mostly from a training standpoint, I would say. You can also hire differently, obviously, if you can't get those people up to that level, then you may have to hire differently based on those different behavioral styles and skills.
Perfect. All right. So that being, it's 1:23, and Kyle, did we want to break out into breakout rooms?
I'm all set to go.
Before we jump in, I just want to appreciate the panel. It takes a lot to coordinate a forum like this and get everyone here to share. Everyone has some really standout responses and expertise in the area of HR. So I just want to appreciate the panel for taking the time to share their knowledge. Thank you so much. For those of you that are stuck around, we like to kind of lighten things up in the end and have some breakout sessions so folks can connect. So while we get that set up, I do want to make 2 announcements. So we started this back, it's going on 2 years now, and we do a lot of events. If anything we say resonates with you and you want to learn how you can be part of the Eminae Network, definitely reach out to myself. We do a lot of in-person events as well. We do a lot of social events. So the picture at the bottom left, we were hanging out on the North Shore. This was in the summertime, obviously. Weather was much, much better then. We had a rooftop session back in Manhattan. And we have a lot of events. Speaking of events, is the slide here? Yeah, okay. We have a Christmas party is going to be coming up on Thursday in Jericho Terrace. If you want to come out and meet the rest of the gang and have fun, we still have a few slots. You're going to be taking over the place. So you're going to have a lot of fun, an open bar, a lot of food, a lot of drinks, some great music, entertainment. If you want to come out and hang out with the gang, I'll post a link in the chat if you want to sign up and come out to the holiday party. We'd love to have you come on and hang out with us and have fun. Our next event is going to be on December 21st. So Erin Hoffman is going to be our speaker. She's a financial planner with Certified Financial Services. And her expertise, her superpower is working in the healthcare sector. So if you are in the healthcare business, or if you have clients that you advise that are in the healthcare sector, you definitely want to tune in. She's going to be talking about succession planning options for healthcare professionals. This will be our final event of the year. This is our roundtable event. This is geared to professionals. If you're not an advisor and you're a business owner, you're still welcome to attend. These are our smaller settings, usually have about 12 to 14 people attend these roundtables. So I will repost the link again in the chat so you guys can attend. So that's all I have for announcements. John, Roy, do we have any final questions in the chat?
No, but how many minutes do you want the breakout room set for?
Yeah, so we're going to set it for 10 minutes. Everything is all set up.
It's all ready to go.
Yeah, we're pretty much all ready to go. If you joined the meeting late, there's a chance that you may not be signed, but once everyone is in their rooms, we will, let me see here. Yeah, once everyone's in their rooms, we will assign folks and you'll be all situated. So hang on tight. We're gonna open the rooms and it's gonna be 10-minute sessions and give everyone a chance to network. So see you guys. Thanks again for attending, everyone. And if I don't speak before Christmas or holidays, happy holidays to each and every one of you guys. Thank you.